everybody. Well, this is unusual, I know. Today is Wednesday, not been on Wednesdays for a while, mostly during the summer. But that's okay because tomorrow is a holiday, as some of those of you who are in the United States know. So, in honor of the holiday, I may or may not be on tomorrow, but today we're just going to take it easy. We're going to do a little spinning, talk about silk some, and not make a big deal about teaching today. Just relax and talk. So, guess who's here? Yes, he absolutely heard me start up the stream, and I told you, if he sees me sit down like this in front of the computer, he's on my lap wanting attention. But he's not purring right now. He did just wake up. Maybe he's like we are, when we first wake up and don't want to talk, right? He's been sleeping on the bed back there behind me. He's got his circle of wool that he's been sleeping in pretty much. He's starting to show his age a little bit. He is probably about 8 years old. So he's just not the kitten he was anymore. Nope. Oops. Sorry, this is going to show the mic. It's not showing you, cat. It's showing the fiber. There you are. Oh, you're going to go walk on my table. All right, you do that. I'm going to spin. I'm going back over here where I'm spinning. Go on. Shoo. Okay, he is totally sitting. I'm going to have to clip this. He is totally sitting on my fiber. No fool him. Silk is absolutely 100% cat approved because it is an amazing, amazing fiber. Wait a minute, cat. I want to get my... Oh, you didn't like that? There we go. He's unsure. I put a towel on my lap. He's unsure about getting on it. See? You can stretch out there. There you go. See, that's not too bad. Is it? So maybe I can get this silk in the... Oh man, that is so bright. That white. I mean, first of all, look at the shimmer on that silk. It's just radiant, isn't it? It's just gorgeous. This is 100% Tussah silk, as I wrote underneath the picture there. What's the difference between silks? Well, there's a number of different kinds of silk, and I'm only going to talk about this, the Tussah today, and the mulberry. Basically, they're both the same thing. It's kind of like when you're in the wool classification and you have a border Leicester and you have a merino fleece. Your Tussah silk is just not quite as good or fine as the mulberry. The silk is pretty much produced the same way, by letting the silkworms feed and develop their cocoon, and then either what they call peaceful, I can't think of the word, where they don't kill the silk larva, or they do. Okay, there's two ways, and they have two ways to process it. And this particular, but both the Tussah and the mulberry are produced by taking the cocoons and either removing the larva or not removing the larva, then boiling them until it becomes really, really soft, and taking a strand of that cocoon and do what they call reeling, which is just pulling that strand so that it is continuous. And that is what you get with 100% silk. We have a lot of ways to use fiber that is almost as soft as this, that is not involve the silkworm at all. And I am speaking of tencel and some of the synthetic fibers. They feel like silk, they spin like silk, but they are produced by equipment, machinery. They're produced in a factory. An emulsion is made and forced through what they call spinnerets, and little streams of those fibers come out, and that's how we get the tencel fiber. So there are alternatives if you really don't like the idea of the silkworm being involved. There are alternatives where the silkworm is not killed, and that is called piece silk. And there is plenty of people who do sell that. So the options are there. Now this particular silk I got already dyed from a vendor. I have no idea if it's a piece silk or not, and I'm okay with that, whatever the process was, because I'm a country girl. I live with animals that are raised and then used for a purpose, and harvested or killed or whatever. So it's okay with me, but I totally understand that there are people that it's not okay, and that's fine. So back to the difference, mulberry and Tussah. So you're getting the same process and you're getting the same fiber, but your silkworms that are producing and used for the Tussah are handled just not as finely, and so you get these, I'm going to put the light through it, areas that you can still see part of what was the cocoon. It did not, it's like a nub, a little clump of fiber in your wool. It's the same way. You can see it did not come off of the cocoon smoothly. It came off in a little clump. So that's part of the difference. The second is the basic color. Tussah is always a tan or honey or what they say golden brown. The mulberry silk is always white. So if you buy silk that is white, you can know that it's mulberry. But if you buy silk that looks a honey color, naturally or whatever, you're going to know it's Tussah. I already am this way because the silk flyaways. I have already gotten it all over my pants. But anyway, we're going to spin on the Roberta today. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about the drafting. It is an extremely gentle tug. I am trying very hard to go for very thin yarn. My goal would be to make silk embroidery, but I have so much of this and it's all so much of the same color. I'm sure that I will end up doing something else with it also. But that is the drafting process. Now I'll just take that off. I'll be doing that a lot more, but I'm going to lay it here, and as you can see, it just wants to stick to itself really bad. I have, if it works, a good resource really good place to go and look. Let's see if I can get it to paste. Oh. Oh, I think it's... Huh, I used to know how to copy. Hang on just a sec. Let me recopy this link. Nope. Alright, I'm going to take that back. I forget how to copy. If somebody comes on that can tell me, that's fine. I will put it on later. You know, I could make a command. Let's see if this works. There we go. Alright. Now let me get going here. Turn the music back up a little bit since I won't be talking too much. I guess my mic's fine. And change this like this. Alright, now I'm going to be fiddling a little bit as I start. I know it's too fast. You can see I have a drafting zone of probably 5 inches. And it's going to go very slow. But if you can't see this little pigtail, I mean that's definitely embroidery 2-ply. Now, embroidery floss is usually 3-ply, or 5-ply, and you pull it apart. When you make embroidery floss to use and hand spin your own, you're not going for that concept. That's a manufacturing concept. Now I am coming up to where this, I should have pulled this out ahead of time, but those you can save. And you can see how the silk is sticking to my arm. Look at that. Okay. And I leaned into it. This is where my Dollar General sticky tape roller lint pickup thing comes in real handy. Silk is not one of the fibers I spin much, especially 100%. So you'll notice that I'm going to be watching the drafting and everything as I work. Not a fast spin at all. Pinching pretty hard at the point the twist stops. Pulling pretty far in the drafting zone. And have run into an area that thinned out too much, so I have to grab some from the back and join it. Every once in a while you'll hit some areas that feel thicker. They didn't draft out like the rest of it did. Tug a little bit more, just like you do with wool. A lot of people like to spin silk on a support spindle. I have not had enough experience with support spindles to be comfortable doing that. I can practice with some silk, but it's not what I'm going to spin the entire 4 ounces with. And the second thing is, I was saying you can save these little bits that you pull out. They are good for mixing with something that in your drum cart or bat to add that textural interest. If you want to blend silk, I would use drum carding. Trying to pull silk and a wool from combs really is going to give you a side-by-side top, which is usable, doable, but not as well blended. You're going to have streaks of silk and then streaks of wool. You probably, if you have spun a number of blends of silk and a wool, you will have seen that in your top instead of roving, where it kind of lays side by side. And I am spinning directionally, starting from where I start pulling off of there. So I'm spinning the same direction, but I don't really feel silk has a lot of an issue that way because it doesn't have scales like wool does. I go quite a ways back to join. I am still getting too much pull in. I may have to take that off. Once I determine about what the drafting zone should look like as I pull that out to keep that single consistent, it goes a little faster. I separated the entire, oops, that got too thin. I'm going to lay some over that. And I also, it broke here. There we go. Nope. Okay. I need to take this off and start a new join. Didn't work well. There we go. Take that off. Silk is hard to join. It is slippery. That's why I go further back behind the join point. Alright, I'm at the end of that, so I'm going to draft some more. You will notice as you're drafting, the fiber behind your non-moving hand, in this case my left hand, starts bunching up a little bit, and that's because the fiber gets kind of pulled forward. Doesn't draft all entirely right out of the end here. This is awesome color. The other thing I want to talk about is how they dye silk. This is not a commercial dye. This is from an indie dyer. And silk is entirely different process than your wool dyeing. Takes You cannot use the acid-based dyes. It takes a special dye. I get dyes from Treenway, Tweenway is my source. And I'm not going to talk about the process here today, but I have talked about working with and dyeing silk and all that in the podcast. So if you're interested in my personal opinion and my input about it, as opposed to just what you get on Google, then it would be a good place to check out. If you go to my channel page, where it says About, you'll see a link there. So the channel page is on Twitch. You can also find it yarnspinnerstales.com. Eventually I will be making a lot of highlights of this, since it technically is a teaching stream, and I will be putting it up publicly on YouTube, so you'll be able to find that too. If you miss it this time, you can watch the video on demand on Twitch, and if you don't get a chance to watch it there, because we know this is an extremely busy time of the year for so many people. If you don't get to catch it there, you can catch it on YouTube. I had 4 ounces of this fiber. I think I might have said this already, but I divided it, and this bobbin I will be putting 2 ounces on there. And as you can see, eventually I get in some pretty hot pink color there. Interesting combination of colors, but I like it. Gold and hot pink. The name of the colorway is Chariot. So I guess you can imagine a gold chariot of a king with its bright, vivid fabric seats. At least that's how I look at it. It is also related to a tarot card, which is called the Chariot. And actually this fiber was from a club that she had, dyeing sequence that she had done that related to tarot cards. So delightful to spin. I plan to self-ply the 2 bobbins. They will just be hit and miss as to where the colors hit, because I want it to look pretty much like what the roving is, the pink and the gold together. me get a sip of coffee here. So I don't have too much more to say about silk right now, but I am going to continue spinning. Well, I'll turn the music up a little bit and let you relax and either watch the spinning or listen to the music as you do something. We'll see how much of this 2 ounces I can get spun. I'm sure I will think of other things to say. I always do, don't I? I imagine if you're in the U.S., there's lots of cooking going on today. Or shopping, maybe. Get ready to cook. We started cooking yesterday, although we are not gathering this year. Which is why I said I may be back on tomorrow. I'm sure the shine of the fiber really did suggest this gold color to the dyer. I have a lot of kudos for the color, because it is really more gold than it is yellow. And having worked with yellows and oranges and that sort of thing, I think getting a true gold color is hard. I haven't actually looked at the dyes for silk, as in maybe there is a gold color, but I don't think so, because I think they work with a somewhat limited source palette of colors. Need to move my book. Wish you guys could see closer here just how thin this is, and smooth and shiny. It's amazing. It'll be a heavy embroidery thread. I can't use the tiniest of canvas. Might have some problem with it rubbing thin, going through whatever fabric I use it for. Generally, if you get a good solid twist. Oh, and that's something else. It's very hard to see the twist in silk. When you work with the wools and some of the other fibers, it's pretty easy, but this just looks solid. I mean, I cannot really see the twist. And so, there is another challenge. If you're really trying to count twists per inch, it would be very challenging on silk. I don't know if a white would show better. I think about the best thing you could do is spin something that was barber pulling somehow. And I might get that when I hit the pink and gold. The truth is, There, I am turning so slowly. I am not getting really lots of twist. I am getting enough, but it's not actually twisted all that hard. It's just hard to see that. I felt something rough. There is something very rough right there. Oh, how about that? Actually, I have vegetable matter in my silk. Comes from the. Yeah, I don't believe that's part of the cocoon at all. Unless the cocoon was super, super hard. Just didn't soften. Nope, got a little too thick there. There is just a tad, little bit of this darker gold showing up in there, and I can actually see a little bit of the twist right there by doing that. So that's the answer. You need to have something that is like a barber pole so that you can count your twists per inch if that's what you really want to do. And I just learned that. Actually, I just figured that out. Never really questioned myself about it before. I'm not one to spin counting twists per inch. Not a quote unquote technical spinner. But I do know people are, and it matters. I get to draft and I don't want to stop, but really, if you keep yourself a limited amount that's laying on your lap and laying around or gets maybe caught up on you, it's better. The other thing I do not do if I want to pull back on my thread here, I manually turn the bobbin. I don't pull on it. I will do that with wool, but not this. And he's back. The cat is back. You just stay down there or go sleep on the bed, okay? aromas from the kitchen are wafting in, and it's making me hungry. Good time of year. Lots of good smells from the kitchen this time of year. I think I have to spin at least until I get to the pink, right? It's going to take a while. May not make it. No, didn't get a good join there. Too lazy to go back and fix it. That's a bad thing. Newman won't believe I won't lay him on my lap. He keeps pacing around down here, around my feet. I've been sitting here thinking about what I'm going to use this with and embroidery thread in general. And, you know, in the embroidery and crewel and that needlepoint and that sort of thing, there is the distinction, of course, between cotton, which is always thinner, and silk, which is thinner. But wool embroidery, it's called embroidery wool, right? it's not considered thread, technically, because it's thicker. And it's almost impossible to get super, super thin. You can get it, but we're talking, if you get thin while you're spinning wool, you're getting lace weight to knit with. It's still not down to thread thickness. And so that's where the distinction comes, I think, when they talk about embroidery thread and crewel work needlepoint wool. It's thicker. Well, I'm sitting here thinking, now, what am I going to do with this? And I'm all about right now the breed studies, and I have these little bits and bobs of all these different breeds that I'm going to make into Christmas ornaments, but embroider the name on the ornament of the rare breed. Well, that's where I got to thinking, I really don't want to use as thick as I get for lace weight to do that embroidery. Well, obviously I'm thinking this might be a good candidate for that, but that led into thinking further about the difference between even how they call it, the distinction between thread and wool. Uh-oh, I feel something clumping back here. I have to stop and get it. Now that's probably a piece of the cocoon. I can definitely see it. It affected my drafting. Got a little bit of thick and thinner. Uh-oh. This is also going. There we go. I'm gonna start at, I just scooched the speed up, I mean a hairbreadth, because as the bobbin gets a little bit of weight on it, it has a tendency to very, very finely slow down. Not a lot, but I can feel the difference in my hands, and so I increase the speed just a little bit, which helps me with the drafting. Of course, keeps the twist consistent. And I got a boo-boo here. Little bit of fiber doesn't belong there. I swear this fiber's going to make the sunshine come out. I'm looking out my window. I thought it was getting brighter, but it's not. We have our sunshine in here today. So this was a really tiny little bit of teaching about silk. There's a huge amount of information about silk and spinning it, and I mean how it's produced and how to dye it and all that. Didn't want to go into that today. I definitely wanted to show the hands-on of dealing with Tussah silk. Gonna get a lot of yardage out of 4 ounces when you spin thin like this. Not at all like spinning wool. There we go. Joins are always like, really gotta be careful. But then once you get going, it's pretty good. Unless it sticks to you, like it's doing to me. I know that people who talk about working with silk talk about doing a manicure before you actually start working with silk. And what they're really saying is you want to have nice smooth hands, fingernails, nothing to be catching. And I haven't been doing any outside work, or I do dishes once a day, but I don't have too much of a problem handling this silk this morning because my hands are not rough or dry or chapped or anything like that. But it is something that people will say they have problems with. Right. First little splotch of pink there. Going for the pink. That little bit's gonna disappear into all that gold right now. Just give me a little oranger color, probably. Finding where to hold this to draft is something that you have to kind of get a feel for. You can't draft this way at all. I'm pulling with For All I'm Worth and it won't draft right. You don't want to draft like this either. You can see even if I hold this lightly but have any kind of hold here, I can't pull that. So there is just a nice fine point of where you hold it and draft. Mess around with it a little bit. If it's giving you problems, change where you're holding. And I guess I could probably say that it's about the same distance for that drafting that I hold as the draft zone. both drafting, but one is pre-drafting off of the top and the other one is drafting to feed into your fiber supply for the single. About the same distance. Now, normally with wool, you'd say, well, that's the staple length of the fiber, but that's not true with the cocoons. They reel constantly and they combine those, what they reel, and there is, I'm sure, probably mechanized ways of doing the reeling so that it ends up in this top. You can just see just a little hint of pink there on the bobbin. There is so much depth to this color. I mean, when I pull it out, it looks really light, and when it's back in the top itself, it looks dark. Remember I was saying that fiber from back here comes up there? You can see right there. Well, probably you can't, but there's pink in there that's coming from way back here. Well, can't see it. You might, if I put it down on the table maybe. Not at all. Oh well. You just have to believe me. One of the things you want to do when you're drafting is not allow the fiber to bend back or crunch up, or you want it absolutely straight. So in that sense, we are spinning this. I am spinning this 100% worsted because I am pulling those fibers absolutely straight, not allowing any of them, even when I try to join, not allowing any of them to fold back. One of the things I'm going to do after this is done, today, I'm going to take this bobbin off and clean and re-oil. I'm starting to think that I got a lot of fuzz buildup, not only just today, but what I was spinning. I was working on some tunas yesterday. Okay, let's not go any further with that. Alright, last one for today. Gonna get into the pink. I think that should be enough to show the pink good. But it's not tedious, but it is a spin that you want to pay attention to and focus on and everything, and then I'm noticing that I am tiring. So, it's not something you want to do for a long term. Give yourself a break. Enjoy the process. You have the most glorious fiber ever in your hands when you're spinning silk. Just absolutely enjoy the process. Yep, I got a clump. I'm also going to move this so that we can see it a little better as the pink comes up. Bubblegum pink. Not even that soft. I guess it is hot pink. This has been wonderful fun for me. I'm glad you checked it out later as a video on demand. And I will be back this Sunday for sure, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I may pop in tomorrow. I'm not going to commit. It'll be just a surprise if I do. So if you've got any silk in your stash and you've been afraid to get it out and spin it, don't wait anymore. Go get it. Thank you all. Until later, happy spinning. Bye.